once central government's writ no longer ran, those who came instead agreed before they shifted out of town to make up fresh arrangements to cordon off the crime scene, Pompeii, that evil place, Piranesi, Westminster, and let Whitehall be wild. So that from the shell of Parliament and the deconsecrated Abbey to the charred and roofless palace's facade, back down to beyond the park and through to horse guards, all was now Chernobyl out of bounds.
Radiation was just isotopes of long historic wrongs.
Still, the mortmain of authorised atrocities wrought by the British state upon the world made that bland acreage a no-man's land.
A haunted patchwork of disgust and honed dishonour. It's no more this notorious coffinish backdrop. History's proscenium arch, shame's stage, ambition's boards, 10 Downing Street, which, however, they reopened some years later as the new Museum of Shit.
Satire played no part in its new function.
Museum's trustees explained to all who cared that when the state collapsed, new hidden treasures had been discovered, sequestered far below the streets, in the medieval cellars of Whitehall Palace, among old thrones and secret treaties, a stomach-churning trove.
Vaults filled with dried and varnished turds, a fecal archive of the shit of all the servants of the state back to the conquest, the spoor of Britain's coprocratic lords. A new museum of shit.
History can never be concluded.
The heritage builds up like falling ash.
We need museums to wrangle our responses when the past, like herpes, breaks back through our skin.
To which end now, with sensitive curation, the Shit Museum's collection was displayed in recreated Georgian glass-topped cabinets with rank on countless rank of medieval shriveled twiglets shat by nameless clowns.
A new museum of shit.
Further on, flaking Reformation Mars bars were labelled as authentically the shit of Thomas Cromwell or Archbishop Cranmer, with shining cowpats from Restoration admirals filling up the rooms of most of the third floor.
Then, after pit, more and more examples were kept in pickling jars, shelf after shelf, pale prunes from statesmen and superintendents, with one whole shelf of shit from Bona Law. A room was dedicated to the great turds, Churchill and Victoria's crap, inlaid in gold.
Another to shit from unworthy recipients of offices or honour who had added to the archive, having signed eternal silence in drops of their own blood as they had strained. Kim Philby, Oswald Mosley, Robert Maxwell, from the shit of diplomats, spies and MPs, right next to Sir Jimmy Savile, OBEs. This priceless educational resource, in terms of the DNA the shit yielded alone, nonetheless remained largely unknown.
They gave up thoughts of opening a tea room as the volunteers who staffed the museum retched.
And no one bought a single baked shit keyring or a postcard for its kitcheners.
In the wilderness outside, eventually the beavers built a dam between the cenotaph and where they'd killed King Charles to form a dappled lake from the nearby breached embankment.
The new Museum of Shit.
Maxine, and you won't be getting that vaccine from reading that dark web by Glean. It's made from kiddies Charlie Sheen has processed through a huge machine and laced with polypropylene that acts like nitroglycerine, and when ingested turns your spleen orange then ultramarine. Maxine, it's deadlier than a guillotine. They tested it on a wolverine. It cancels out your dopamine. It makes you bend like plasticine. To their will, it's quite obscene. Well, when they say it's just routine, you think they tell the truth, Maxine. But when were you born? Where have you been? Where have you been? They call it quarantine, but only so that they can scream the old to make more silent green. It's the elites that like gangrene. Always you eternal out of the skulls on benzedrine. Panels of experts who convene with Masonic Jews. Maxine, come back Maxine, I didn't mean Maxine, think about Majesty the Queen. Oh, let it go, I won't demean myself by groveling to a team. She made her own bed, has Maxine never bed those sheets out clean? All smeared with things like Vaseline. Nobody has ever seen this so-called virus, Tommy Queen. Next up, they'll bet Ovaltine, here in the late Anthropocene. Maxine, don't you be getting that vaccine. Don't you be getting that vaccine. Maxine's vaccine. Maxine's vaccine. Maxine's vaccine. Maxine's vaccine. Uh-oh, Maxine's vaccine. Uh-oh, Maxine's vaccine.
The omnibulating thunderhead of broken building planes and faith that billowed foully promising those gruesome flecks of human bits down on the canyons of New York provides the perfect object lesson. at the chivalry of modern war, waged between rival dilettantes, bumping up uncertainty is the body count of bystanders and passers-by. From stadia in Chile to the suburbs of Baghdad, mining towns in Congo to a cop car in Detroit, death camps, death squads, death cults in Alabama or Ramadi, even to the killing fields and care homes in home counties, in war or peace or in between. This is how fragile fuckwits become Caesars through the body count of bystanders and passers-by. Become Caesars through the body count of bystanders and passers-by. Body count of bystanders and passers-by.
You know the one, he's off the telly, did psychic stuff, the light relief. And now he's giving proper welly to all those wokes who bring us grief. Who do I mean? Well educated, goes on Twitter, speaks his mind. His columns being syndicated, he's got the common touch you'll find. Won't take it from no SJW. Patriotic, not too grand. The back you should have left him tribute, and now he needs a helping hand. Brand new party, proper backing from hedgies just like you and me, to help him send the woke scum packing and help to set the people free. He's off the telly, he's proper famous, he's also got a famous dad. If we back him, who would blame us? Come on, he did that teabag ad. You must know him, this is all too much. He's famous, he's been on TV, he's posh but got the common touch. Plus he is his own chimpanzee. Take the teabags, does like hooting, really 8-bit, really works. The 8-bit might affect recruiting. Alright then, we'll use Lawrence Fox. Lawrence Fox. Lawrence Fox. Lawrence Fox.
Here come the hard-faced men.
Here come the hard-faced men who did well out of the pandemic. Buying shrouds to sell as face masks. Pitching apps to measure clapping. Fat on bodies. Doling dosh to other hard-faced men so busy. Gulling ministers with bullshit. Filling forms on who to furlough. Shifting money further offshore. Shifting money further offshore.
Here come the hard-faced
Scraping spunk off the bedsheets of 12 million lockdown bankers to sell as protein supplement to the clients in the care homes, to increase the profit margins when they moved into the sector, when things looked at their darkest. Bottom fell out of the market, with a markup on the caskets, cornering the market, with a smell of burning rubber, like the smell of crematoria. And you'll never book the market. No, you'll never book the market. And here come the hard-faced men who did well out of the pandemic. Mark them well. 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 Mark them well.
Consider everybody knows how boring you've become. COVID-19 is rife round here, you instantly succumb. Your fingers, toes and arse and nose are worryingly numb. You've just found out your fiancée is actually your mum. The soup you sip served as the bath through which a rat has swum. The silver foil around your bong's made of uranium. You buccaneer the Spanish main but are clean out of rum. Your children simply won't leave home and leave it like a slum. But reflect, although you're wrecked in one major respect, however much you're stressed, your life is truly blessed. But how I'm sure you've guessed, you are not Tory scum. Tory scum, Tory scum, you are not Tory scum. You hear the distant sound of Ed Sheeran begin to strum. You feel your uncle's hand inside your jockstrap in the scrum. You realise it's now been 11 years since you've come. The flash of purest genius last night was really dumb. Everything you touch turns into shit at once, ho-hum. You're finding life's great lottery, Piers Morgan's your best chum. No figure in Greek tragedy sank to the depths you plumb. You recognise an ex-lover's tattoo on your new drum. But reflect, although you're wrecked in one major respect, however much you're stressed, your life is truly blessed. But how I'm sure you've guessed, you are not Tory scum. Tory scum, Tory scum, you are not Tory scum. You wander past some roadkill and you drool out loud yum yum. Your birthday cake so foully baked you cannot eat a crumb. Your boss started at primary school at the millennium. That's actually an OXO cube and not some opium. Your ex-spouse warns your kids about your equilibrium. At La Scala in your aria, you forget the words and hum. There's a smell like rotting cabbage emanating from your thumb. And then to cap it all, you've got a lobster up your bum. But reflect, although you're wrecked in one major respect, however much you're stressed, your life is truly blessed. But how I'm sure you've guessed, you are not Tory scum. Tory scum, Tory scum, you are not Tory scum. But reflect, although you're wrecked in one major respect. However much you're stressed, your life is truly blessed. But how I'm sure you've guessed, you are not Tory scum. Tory scum, Tory scum, you are not Tory scum. Just thank Christ Almighty that you are not Tory scum.
Wafting tubs of burning ermine, a shower of shards of chipped gold paint. No coach could handle that sharp turning on the road to meet the saint. The saint squad smiles beyond the back spot in a hermitage of bones. Metal sheets, planks poked with wet fraud, flapping prayer flags, mobile phones. The coach, heart of the grand procession, had been packed full of dynamite to guard the monarch with discretion from any little oversight. Perhaps the watching, cheering peasants might yearn to seek the monarch's grace and storm the coach. The monarch's presence now constituted half a face. Nor were there any peasants cheering. The recent plague had seen them off, though in a nearby forest clearing 5 huddled, trying not to cough. The coach careened as it had cornered and tipped, exploding down the gulch. Regal scraps rained, local fauna browsed upon the royal mulch. The carts behind the coach had splintered, and the monarch's retinue, with whom the monarch overwintered, became a glory curlicue. The pilgrimage to seek out saintly intercession of the miracle had been the monarch's idea, quaintly to defy the dark empirical. Plan had left the courtiers quizzical. Could the nation be saved through prayer? The monarch was now metaphysical, smithered into the air. The saint ignored the monarch's lateness and chewed upon a soggy frond, meditating on the greatness of the infinite beyond. And soon as quite obscured by drizzle, which washed away the monarch's sins, reminded to love or grizzle, each separate as conjoined twins.
There's a smirking cartoon animal from off of kids' TV on a pastel-coloured plaster on your chest. But if you wash it too often, its edges start to pucker and eventually it drifts off in the scum. There's some scowling cartoon animals on the ducal coat of arms, tattooed over the scab the plaster hid. The scab is black and crusty, like a dried, hard, dirty pan, and you tease its corners with your fingernails. The scab's as big as a grapefruit, and it softly tears away to expose a deep and ancient open wound that's pustular and seeping and goes down to the bone, and you can barely look at it, but must. Then you'll see the cross-hatching of scars, the tissue start to split, and that England, that is, hewn into your chest. By a millennium of conquest, dispossession, theft and lies, and festering with gangrene in your heart. go to the biscuit tin where we keep the first aid, with a Cotswold cottage printed on the lid. And get an aspirin like a Smartie, and another pastel plaster with smirking cartoon animals from off of kids' TV.
Cartoon animals!
When we're out the other side and no one's died for 30 days, we shall all convene to play for the grand gesture. We're going to boost up public mood and bring our country back as one. We've all been through this thing, and so we'll need a grand gesture. Something to set our hearts alight, something to make us smile again, something that restores our pride and short. Grand gesture. And with a for this task, well connected, well to do, good, great with get up and go. Let's plan the grand gesture. Think it's our blithe complacency, our easy charm that does the trick. Noticed it at Burial, making grand gestures. And so we'll bring up some old pals, some BFFs from the tennis courts, to pitch in for the tendering thing, for the grand gesture. And then we'll sit for hours and hours, watching endless PowerPoints, dawning wellies, touring sites for the grand gesture. Now at last the tendering process will be done and dusted, so we'll call a presser to announce the grand gesture. A thing that justifies itself and speaks to all in our great land. The enterprise of its fair folk, this beautiful grand gesture. I say, you'll know these boys, they're great, and you their CEO at Stowe. They're just the chaps to do us proud, building the grand gesture. And the winning entry is, we'll stoke the tension up a bit. A new Titanic, just the thing for the grand gesture. Stylish, graceful, built to last, a sleek streak on the ocean waves, the past and future forged as one, a truly grand gesture. The team's already hard at work, their track record second to none, building icebergs around the world. Hooray for the grand gesture, the grand gesture.
Pepys buried a parmesan during the Great Fire, but what would you elect to save from fate's capricious ire? Rossetti buried poetry, Dean Swift a Whinner hymn, Dylan Thomas 20 pints of beer full up to the brim. The pharaohs buried wives and slaves and cats and grain and gold. The wary bury diaries full of tales not to be told. A pirate buries treasure, a squirrel buries nuts, speculators bury surpluses to see them through the gluts. What should you save by burying? A book, some wine, a glove, your passport, or a locket of the one you truly love? Some hair from your first baby, your old dad's broken pipe, the clutter of a lifetime, or your life until it's ripe. And what does Boris Johnson love? He buries and he saves. Why, 100,000 citizens buried in their graves.
The elephant that's in this room just shat upon the floor. I know what everybody says, they say simply ignore. But when the bastard shat again, no self-respecting chatelaine could cope with it much longer. Furthermore, that elephant's been in this room since, let's see, well before the end of March, and just slouched round to block the exit door. And now he's gone and shat again over my Persian mat. Explain how he endured this for a month. Before the latest rules, I tried to tie a face mask to his trunk. He lifted his enormous leg and showered me with spunk. And now the fucker's shat again. He's on some fucking scat campaign. The worst of it is I can't even get drunk. That's because all of the booze long since went up his trunk. Plus he scoffed all of the biscuits, though there's nothing which to dunk. And Jesus Christ, he shat again. And tough if you find that profane, because the cunt's just shat another hunk. Stuck with each other in this tiny room, we two shall skulk. I'll try and finish off this verse, and he no doubt will sulk. And obviously he's shat again. Torments like this with twat villain. Very soon I hope that he will crush me with his bulk. The alternative is paddling in his poop spread through the room. Though what the creature symbolises I dare not to presume. I'll just observe he's shat again. I think you might find that germane, as we glower at each other, left together in this tomb.
To stop each other dying, they denied them all a life. So lived a kind of death that was nothing close to living, except for those imposing what they chose to choose to be. How the living, without a living, could only live by dying. Because living is just buying anyway, though all of them were dying just to live. And what's that? Rattlings? You're asking what were these humans actually good at? Well, I suppose jumping, jokes, and genocide, of course. The usual stuff, but nothing special. Not that they thought so. Though that was half the problem, and honestly, I wouldn't gnaw those bones if I were you. If I were you. If I were you. If I were you.
order in, you drive your rivals out. You send in your consultants when the money's thrown about. You put the hokey COVID in your turnover. That's what it's all about. Ooh, hokey, hokey COVID. We are hokey, hokey COVID. Wow, hokey, hokey COVID. Knees bent, boots feel rah, rah, rah. Drive the numbers up, you keep the pros locked down. Send in more consultants who can go to town. Getting a hokey COVID in our turnover. That's what it's all about. Wow, hokey, hokey COVID. We are hokey, hokey COVID. We hokey, hokey COVID. Lungs clog, boots fill, rah, rah, rah. We'll fuck up tracking trees, but everything is fine. The R rate's on the rise, but so's the bottom line. We've got the hokey COVID in our turnover, and that's what it's all about. Suck hokey, hokey COVID. Die, dokey, hokey COVID. Suck hokey, hokey COVID. Chums and boots fill, rah, rah, rah. That's what it's all about.
Across the placid surface of the boiling lake is spread a thin meniscus, a flimsy film, more sheer than late spring ice, and which is constantly dissolving, melting, or evaporating just behind you, compelling you to move towards the distant shore, tight-roping on these fine yet thicker veins, the scars of former fissures. in earshot. In the corner of your eye, the boiling lake is variously discharged. Its roiling waters roaring through the turbines of 12 dams, each named after a virtue as defined by its constructors. Wealth, punishment, obedience. You get the point. Their watchtowers seem spindly through the mounds of crashing spray. And skimming, sliding, skating, stumbling or skidding across the lake, you can glance down crystal clearly into its churning depths, where hulking, looming things embroil themselves in orgies of destruction. Some intermittently float up to batter you right beneath your feet, regular nearby rending noises alerting you to others, just like you, going under through a fissure in a final tiny blur of blue and red. Yet you tiptoe on, only microns from the maelstrom's greedy, not caring less. Still safe, right at this moment, closer to the distant dark and sunlit shore. And there isn't any other lake. There are no landscapes, conceivable, constructible, feasible beyond what's here, ameliorated nonetheless by amalgamated acts of random kindness. So, laughing with exhilaration and loving every second you've got left, you race on.
Do Etonians eat onions with a Georgian silver spoon? Do Harrovians ride horror vines beneath a blood-red moon? Are all aliens, green Martians neath the skin? Do Wickamids hold Wiccan rites and sacrifice their kin? Are Carthusians, Cartesians, just dualistic boobs? And do Solopians hatch from eggs and not fallopian tubes? Do Rhodesians ride on Rhodesian ridgebacks? Have any of these brats suffered from physical attacks? Do Malvurians smoke marbles? Are Stoics stoic? Yes, I know, but this is what they call those fools who went to school at Stoke. And do fetishians fetishize how fitting is the fate of children who are taught to think they're smart and good and great? But 11 and 9, and I've told you'll find the jobs the nation needs done urgently will all be done by jobs. And school and underhanded and simply the wrong tool to sort out track and trace or PPE on why wrong school. But if you ask a favor of a nice public school kid, there's every chance they'll do it for under $1 million quid.
Covid lit. Great classics retold for our troubled times. Number 1. Romeo and Juliet. Two households, both alike in dignity, can only meet in groups of less than 6. In their own support bubble, not in their own homes or outdoors or in any public space, apart from indoors serving food, except for emergency pubs, outdoors or indoors, on or in or under public transport. You, Romeo, 2 meters away from that window. End of.
The banquet. The bankers and the viruses arranged to have a dinner, where the viruses looked tired and the bankers slightly thinner. The viruses proposed the toast, chaos and bonhomie, bonded the way that both of us crashed the economy. The bankers bridled several laugh, a fat one drawled please. We're the engines of prosperity, and you're just a disease. And we're nothing like you. This comparison's obscene, and we'll prove it by investing to create a new vaccine. Speaking, the viruses replied as disease to disease. There's no need to display your gilt-edged insecurities. Be proud of your achievements and how you make your cash. We loved 08 and 29 and every other crash. True, you could be more proactive, fewer sins of omission, but you make up for that with the monstrous size of your commission. It's just you lack all agency, just do what bankers do, which lacks the subtle beauty of a nasty bout of flu. But still your avarice and greed, like our infectious ways, have thankfully hastened mankind towards the end of days. With poverty and misery and all kinds of how-do-you-do, eventually we'll kill them off together. Cheers. Salute. The bankers rose in fury at the speaking of this libel. Respected and titled, they flung who's who like a Bible. Scream, we will make a vaccine that will see you commies off. But in the midst, the banker at this point began to cough. Remember that scene near the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark? Like that, but as to details, I shall leave you in the dark. Many of those bankers died, others were very ill. The viruses then did the decent thing and paid the bill. And furthermore, quite generously, they left this handsome tip. However sleek and rich you are, however firm your grip, on swag from your derivatives or loot your hedge funds grab, don't forget that in the end, death picks up the tab.
Of course it takes time to adjust when you've been seriously concussed, and things are best left undiscussed. Like how the whole world's got us sussed, still pretending we're robust. We're rotting from the upper crust, our hearts corroding into rust, and just one feeble, fetid gust from crumbling into tumbling dust. But are we bothered? Are we fussed? Of course we're not, you get my thrust. It's 'cause we've still got Churchill's bust. Churchill's bust, Churchill's bust, 100,000 dead is just statistics. We've got Churchill's bust, and so what if the toffs encrust that Union Jack with jaded lust? Brexit's like Churchill, we got bust. We got bust, we got bust, we got totally fucking bust. Thank fuck we still got Churchill's bust. Churchill's bust, 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 Churchill's bust,